You're listening to Business Podcasting Made Easy, the influencer's formula, where you are getting a roadmap to instant authority and thought leadership with a podcast that you're proud of and the marketing to go along with it on the IBGR.
Actually, a book too.
Radio Network. A book. That's what this one is about. Potentially a book. Why wouldn't you do a book? You've got it 80% done. This is episode 36. Amplify. From podcast to a book that positions you as a unique expert, authority, or thought leader. I'm Donna Cundy, co-founder of the IBGR Network, global radio authority, podcast expert, producer of over 14,000 podcasts. But for this episode, we are putting the spotlight on my co-host here, Ben Joya. And why? Why, Ben?
Because I'm spotlit as a three-time international best-selling author with teachings that reach more than 50,000 people worldwide. And that's thanks to leveraging my books. Do I have 50,000 people on my email list? Not at this moment, no, right? But I have borrowed other people's audiences thanks to my book, right? So we're gonna keep talking about how you can do that, whether it's your book, your podcast, or both, because we are here to help you get your podcast done 13 minutes at a time in just 13 weeks. And remember that you can easily follow the plan at influencersformula.com. If we can help you directly, we invite you to come chat with us at ibgr.info. Once again, ibgr.info. And our friend Anthony J. D'Angelo, it's not D'Angelo. He says, don't reinvent the wheel, just realign it.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, and with that, I'm going to say welcome to the show. And Donna, why is all this stuff that I keep yelling and interrupting you about important?
I think it's super important because in order to become a person worth listening to, you want to position yourself as that unique expert, authority, and thought leader. And there's no better way to do that than with a book that you're proud of. You've already got the audio piece done. You've already got the podcast piece done. Why wouldn't you turn that into a book? I just don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're not going to speak to anyone's mental health here when we're wondering, why wouldn't you do such a thing?
Right.
Right. And, you listener may be going, well, it's, I'm just trying to get through the roadmap here. And this all sounds incredibly overwhelming. And we invite you to take a breath, right? And remember what the kinds of things that we keep talking about here. The first one is that we invite you to amplify your message by repurposing your content, right? And here's one of the most profound ways to do it, right? Like Donna said, 80% of your book is done by time your podcast is complete, right? So you do that little extra bit of work, that little bit of extra magic, and bring it into book form. And then you might be wondering, well, what about how do I position myself as an expert, authority, or thought leader? Well, you've been doing that by creating relevant content for your people. You've been doing that by understanding how your people are engaging with you, what they care about, by dint of the episodes that they're downloading, right? By dint of the comments that they're making, right? And then I'm going to go even deeper here, right? There's so much we're going to squeeze into this 13 minutes, right? And this is not about information as much as transformation. So open your mind to what's possible right now, right? Shunryu Suzuki, right, who's the person who brought Zen Buddhism to the West, he said, in the expert's mind, there are few possibilities, right? There's that danger of few possibilities, but in the beginner's mind, the possibilities are basically endless. So one of those almost endless possibilities is that you can leverage the idea of the book. You can leverage the concept of the book before it's published or even finished being written. What?
Because you did that.
I did that. Yep. There's that right, fantastic story of, I was invited to speak at Stanford University. Somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn. This is why we often talk about LinkedIn. They said, hey, do you want to come do a 2-day training at Stanford University to business people? And after I, fell on the floor and stood up again. I said, yes, I would love to do that. Thank you very much for considering me, right? And we worked out the contract, and I said, hey, by the way, I'm going to show up with autographed copies of my brand new book for everybody in the audience. And the event planner said, oh my God, that's amazing. And I said, I agree. We hung up the phone and I went, holy crap, I have to write that book right now. Right? So I managed to write that book in 3 weeks, and I produced it in 3 weeks. I showed up to the event, autographed, signed, sealed, delivered, as they say, right? The audience loved it. The event planner loved it. They hired me for more gigs at Stanford. They hired me to go to the University of Washington. The audience hired me to come speak at their headquarters in Sydney, Australia. They didn't have enough money to bring me, so they sold tickets to their own employees to fund me to come. So I show up in Australia. There are tickets with my name on, like concert tickets. And I'm standing in front of this audience.
That's incredible.
People going, what is going on here, right? And then, if we go back in time real quick, right? As I was frantically writing the book in those 3 weeks, I had somebody design a 3D cover of the book. And I put it up on LinkedIn and I said, hey, everybody, I'm so excited, right? I'm writing this book. And somebody else reached out to me and they're like, hey, we see that you're writing this book. Would you like to come, the person said, we see that you're writing this book. What we're doing is creating a mindfulness and empathy video game with MIT. This is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and a video game design studio in collaboration with a Fortune 100 company that's going to be played by 20,000 of their employees around the world. Would you like to write the curriculum? Right. Wow. And again, thank goodness I was on the phone because they couldn't see my face as I went, I'd be happy to discuss that with you. Thank you for thinking of me. Right. So leverage, and just about anything is possible. It's so important to remember this, right? Because we get hooked up or we get caught up in, there's so much competition and Put all of that on the shelf and remember that everything is possible, right? You can start easily just by following the roadmap that we're offering in influencersformula.com. If you want to cut to the chase, as we talked about before, set up some time to speak with us at ibgr.info. Right. So, Donna, what do you got to say about all that?
I get blown away every time I hear it. And, Ben, what I love about your program as well is the numbers thing that goes with it. Like we talk about the influencers formula, podcast that you're proud of in 13 weeks. And you put on the table that you can have a book in 7 weeks. So imagine in 20 weeks, having a podcast that you're proud of, a book that you're proud of. How would that position you as that likable expert influencer? Results not guaranteed. You're not going to necessarily get the same phone calls that you got, Ben, but you're going to be getting people's attention. We can guarantee that.
Yeah, in a big way, right? So make this easy on yourself and listen closely, right? You'll see this, you'll catch this in the show notes as well, but just listen to how straightforward this is, right? First thing you do is transcribe your podcasts, right? Don't pay somebody to transcribe your podcasts. Right? Use a tool like Otter.ai, right? $15 a month, 6,000 minutes of transcription, right? Instead of $50 an hour, right? Then brainstorm a list of potential clients and strategic partners and reach out to them. Right?
Oh, where did we hear that before?
Right? Surprise. And, when you're reaching out, the premise for reaching out is, hey, I'm writing a book about such and such a topic. Would you be willing to chat with me? Because essentially I want to write a great book, right? So you get them on the phone. It's much easier for somebody to say, yes, I'll talk to you about your book than, hey, you want to have a discovery call, like a non-specific discovery call, right? A lot of people will shy away from those, if not run in the other direction from you, right? So get them on the phone, by dint of the book that you haven't even written yet necessarily, and ask the folks about the biggest fears and for challenges and frustrations and goals and dreams, in terms of your season theme, right? Because that's going to be what your book is about. And anything that you didn't already address or talk about in your shows, right? You'll clarify that from these conversations with people, right? So and then take those amended transcriptions, I like to call them, right? Your transcriptions plus the input from these conversations. And that's like 80% even more of your book right there.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because it's rounding it out when you're getting their goals, dreams, fears, challenges. It's giving that real world direction and focus that so that you can take your show notes framework and build it out and make it relevant to people in that space. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, and you can tell why Donna and I get so passionate about this, because look how straightforward it is, right?
It really is.
Yeah, I mean,
it's yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't always mean it's easy, right? Like we're not, we're not going to say, oh, it's a cakewalk all the time. No, but it's about an 85% cakewalk compared to what most of the rest of the world will do, right?
Well, and for most people sitting in front of a computer with a blank screen saying, what's the first word I type, or with a pen and paper in hand, what's the first thing? No, you've already done that.
Right. Yeah. Cut, right. Skip all of that stuff. Right. And, for a little bit of extra support in this, refer back and listen to episode 9 of this season 11, right, which is how to pre-launch your podcast by building anticipation and excitement, right? So we talk a lot about these same kinds of things. So go listen to that, right? Transcribe your shows by using Otter, brainstorm a list of folks to reach out to if you haven't already done that multiple times, because we've invited you to do that multiple times, and reach out to them in and around having conversations related to the book and related to potential collaborations in and around the book.
Thank you so much for that. And as we're wrapping up this week, not only this episode, but this entire week, go back and listen again. Last week was about repurposing and leveraging. So you want to do all of those things. This week with amplifying, you're going to start trickling in the idea of amplifying with a blog, with a guest blog, posting on other sites, and then turning yourself into a unique expert and authority and thought leader with a book that you've got 80% written. That's what we talked about this week. Next week, we're going to talk about leveraging the F out of your show. That's really going to charge it up there. This is ending episode 36, Amplify with the book, in our series about business podcasting made easy on the IBGR network. I'm Donna Cundy.
And I'm Ben Joya. Congratulations on your podcast and your book to be.
Woohoo! See you next week.
Bye-bye.